Shabbat Shalom. This week, we read Parshat Behar in the Torah, and we also marked the mystical holiday of Lag BaOmer, in which we celebrated by learning with Dr. Rabbi Feigelson from the Schechter Institute in Jerusalem on Thursday evening. Parshat Behar begins with a portrait of revelation. Vayedaber Adonai el Moshe Behar Sinai lemor. God spoke to Moses on Mount Sinai, saying, and in this moment, like in the giving of the Ten Commandments, we read about the ultimate game of telephone. God tells Moses the law. Moses gives the law to the people of Israel, to us, and a chain of transmission begins in the Torah that continues with me explaining to all of you right now. And yet, does anybody ever stop to ask themselves, if on Mount Sinai, Moses encountered God face to face, then why did he ever come down the mountain? Why didn't he choose to dwell in the state of elevated godliness? Why didn't he choose for himself a life that did not require being compromised by the children of Israel? Anybody ever thought about it? I do all the time. I think about how wonderfully pure that mountaintop must have been. I've sat on Masada in Israel in the Negev early in the morning, as I'm sure many of us have, and watched the sun rise over the horizon. And in my mind, that sunrise cannot even begin to capture revelation. And that moment of sunrise always gets compromised with cameras and cell phones, trying to capture, trying to copy the majesty. We want to transmit the wonder we see before our eyes, while we all know that the copy cannot do justice to the original. As soon as we touch anything magical and try to make it real, it becomes in some way compromised. By nature, the reality has to be less than when compared to the original idea. What compromises the Torah? What compromises revelation? What compromises Judaism? Us, the Jewish people. What makes the Torah and Judaism so rich and multifaceted, so complex and beautiful? Us, the Jewish people. We are the only wisdom tradition without a strand of isolated reflection. No monastic tradition to talk about. Traditionally, we learn in pairs, chevruta, we pray in groups, minyan, we dwell, we thrive only in community. Torah has to dwell here with us in this beautifully compromised form. We have to struggle to live Torah in this beautifully compromised world. And that's why it's a beautiful thing to work with Jewish couples to create a Jewish chuppah of their own making. To work with a family to design a bar or bat mitzvah that reflects their values. To work with a community to engender our collective shared vision of Torah in this world. No two weddings are alike, no two b'nai mitzvah are alike, and no two Jewish communities are alike. That's why if you drive up and down Pico Boulevard, there are roughly 7,000 Jewish communities. That's why for me it is so meaningful this week to walk with Beth, as I mentioned, through her journey of learning and construct and lead the Beit Din for her and her children, and witness the mikvah and her official entry into our Jewish people. And because we can't live on top of Sinai. Each rabbinic Beit Din feels different, with unique meaning, with distinct emotions, and yet all of them feel special. Beth, you and I were already family, as we're both in the USC Trojan family. Used to be much easier to brag about it. And now allow us all as a community to welcome you and Nova and Milo and your parents this morning to the most complicated, most celebrated, most persecuted, most robustly ever evolving and ever revealing family in the history of the world. For you all stand with us as children of Israel. You have once again joined us this morning at the base of that mountain. You instinctively knew how to celebrate this milestone in your life in a completely Jewish manner with food. Thank you for sponsoring Kiddush this morning. In the most profound sense, we are still trying to make sense and live out the miraculous that we heard that day. And we continue to make sense, and we continue to try to hear the miraculous in the world each and every day since that day at Sinai. And my blessing for all of us this morning is that we may continue to recognize the divine in the world and live it out each and every moment of the mundane, compromised world in which we live. For we recognize that it is our sense of family and peoplehood that demands that we love each other no matter what. Whether we heard all of the words of the mountain that morning or just one sound, we are all the children of Israel to whom Moses returned with the Torah. Let's live up to that standard, and let us all say, Amen.